So it's no secret that we have been talking a lot lately about The Last of Us Part 2 and other upcoming PlayStation 4 exclusives like Death Stranding and Ghost of Tsushima. We have certainly been talking a lot about The Last of Us Part 2. There's been just a lot of conversation regarding this game that is coming from all different directions. We haven't gotten anything official, and I don't know when we're going to get anything official. And I want you guys to understand that today's video is not necessarily another leak video, or, I mean, it kind of is a rumor, but it's more of a speculative video where I came across something that may or may not be true, but I really don't want to put the emphasis on it. I don't want to make it sound like this is coming from an inside source, somebody who knows, because a lot of people like myself are getting to a point where, man, we just need something official. We really do, because all of these leaks, all of these rumors, whether they turn out to be true or not, it just gets a little overwhelming, and it gets a little bit frustrating because it's like, man, when are we going to finally see more and hear more about The Last of Us Part 2? It's been a long time. So I totally understand the frustration there, and that's why I don't want to put a lot of emphasis on it. Instead, what I want to do today is speculate on the idea of Sony holding a State of Play this month. And if they were to do it, what would they show, and when would we see it? Like, when would they actually have it? Would it be sometime later this week? Would it be next week, the end of June? The reason why I say this, obviously, is because E3 is coming up, and it's going to be huge, and Microsoft is going to have a huge presence at E3, and it would just be kind of crazy to me to think that Sony's going to go the entire month of June without dropping some big news, when normally what they would be doing is having their own E3 conference and dropping massive, trailers, new game announcements, stuff that, we get excited for every E3. We know that Microsoft, hopefully, is going to be doing this, so it just begs the question, what is Sony going to be doing? But there is something I came across that did kind of spark this thought in my head, and it comes from an individual on Twitter named The Hunter. And I have no idea if this person is credible, if they're an insider, if they have any type of inside information, if they have a track record. I do not know. I didn't look that much into it. The reason why I came across this is because I found an article, which I'm not going to link because I'm not going to be reading from the article, but the article's title read something along the lines of Sony will be holding a State of Play this June or this month, showing off more of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. And that obviously caught my attention, but I realized that this was the only article I could find. And when I looked into it, this is where they got their information from this individual on Twitter. And so, because of this, I don't want to make it seem like, oh, yeah, this is going to happen, this is crazy, because this could just be somebody making something up. But at the very least, it does make us kind of think, would Sony do this? Are they planning on do this? Would it be smart of them to do this? I know for a fact that if they did do it, many of us would be extremely excited. But this person on Twitter, The Hunter, it says that they are the tech and media editor for Walmart Canada. So, take that for what you will. I don't know if that means that they would have some type of inside information. I really don't know. But on Twitter, he on May 27th, this is what he said. Sony capturing the E3 spotlight without even attending. This is fascinating to watch. Neo 2 beta running right before E3. Checkmark. Death Stranding gameplay reveal and release date. Checkmark. State of Play next month with updates on The Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. Checkmark. Blood and Truth releases this week. Checkmark. PS5 news. Checkmark. So, obviously some of the stuff here we already know about, right? But he's kind of like compiling this checklist showing that even though Sony's not going to be at E3, they're certainly making their presence known throughout the months leading up to it, and apparently with a new State of Play that we're supposed to get this month, they're going to make their presence well known even during the time of E3, so that way they are not forgotten. And, it makes a lot of sense to me if Sony were to do this, because if you think about it, what would be the easiest way for Sony to just essentially, I don't want to say steal the spotlight, because that's not fair. I don't want to make it sound like Sony, if they just say one thing about The Last of Us 2, that means everything else is irrelevant. That's not the case, but what would be the easiest way for them to essentially share the spotlight and make sure that nobody is overshadowing them and that they have a huge presence without even being at E3? In my opinion, it would be to take two of your most highly anticipated games. They already did it with Death Stranding, but take the other two, especially The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, give us a significant update, maybe some new trailers, some new gameplay for both of them. Bam. You're right back in it. You're right back part of the conversation. Because I did find it fascinating and interesting that Sony decided to do what they did with Death Stranding before E3. I thought, like, if they were going to do something like this, show a gameplay trailer, a long one, awesome trailer, 8 minutes long, finally reveal a release date for this game, which is definitely a surprise release date. I think a lot of people were very surprised to find out Death Stranding is in fact a 2019 game. The fact that they chose to do it before E3, like a week and a half before E3, it seems interesting to me, because it definitely kept the conversation going and it has people talking about Sony. But is it the best time? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe it would be a mistake for them to do a state of play around the same exact time as E3, because maybe there's a chance they could end up getting less attention than they would actually get if they were to just do it at another time, let's say at the end of the month when E3 has died down and there's not much going on. Maybe that would be a better time. And maybe that is when they could be doing this, if they are in fact going to be doing a state of play this month. Now, I'm very skeptical of this. I really don't know. The only thing I have to say that makes me think that this guy could be right, even if he is just guessing, which he's not making it sound like he's guessing. The only thing that really makes me feel like he could be right is the fact that it just would make a lot of sense for Sony to do this. It would make no sense, in my opinion, for Sony to be radio silent throughout the entirety of June. It would be kind of crazy to me. But 2 days ago, he kind of, reposted it on his Twitter, and he said, "Who's ready to learn the release dates/windows for Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2? Raise his hands." And he kind of highlights what he said on May 27th, thus, backing up and reaffirming that he fully believes that this is what's going to happen. And again, I have no idea if this individual is an insider or if they have inside information. He's talking like he does, right? But still, we don't know. I do find it interesting that he did post on May 27th that he explicitly said we're going to be getting a Death Stranding gameplay reveal and release date. Now, I don't remember because my memory's terrible. And even though this was just, a week ago at this point, I don't remember if by May 27th, were we aware that that's what we were going to be getting? I'm pretty sure we weren't. I'm pretty sure we didn't actually know, because I recall making a video the day of the live stream when we learned the release date for Death Stranding. I recall making a video that day, which I believe was the 29th, and actually letting you guys know that we got a leak early in the morning of the release date. But I could be wrong. I really can't remember. I'm pretty sure by May 27th, we weren't sure that we were going to be getting a release date or a gameplay trailer. I think it was just an assumption. Now, again, that's exactly what this could be. He does mention Neo 2 beta running right before E3, maybe implying that Sony's going to show it off. I don't know. I really don't know. I found this interesting, and I find it does bring up an interesting conversation. Should Sony do a state of play this month? And if they were to do it, when should they do it? And what should they show? Well, first of all, if they were to do a state of play this month, I honestly think it should be either right before E3 or right after. I feel like it would not be smart to kind of do it, obviously, during the same time as any of these publishers having their own show, because it's just going to conflict, right? That would make no sense. So either do it right before or right after. And what should they show if they were to do it? I think it's obvious. You need to show at least show The Last of Us Part 2. You need to give us something. The next time Sony does anything official, they need to show The Last of Us 2. It's getting to a point where they need to say something. They need to do something because people want to know. The fans are eager, and we're getting, frankly, like tired of these unofficial conversations. And I'm not saying we have to have them, but it's exciting. You know, we want to know more. It's a big game, and I think it would be fantastic, honestly, if they decided to actually do a state of play in June, whether it's right before or right after E3, or maybe even a week after E3. I guess it would be fine if they did it at the end of this month too. That would be fine as well. But if they did it this month to keep the conversation going, if they were to actually show more of The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and maybe a few other smaller things, as well as give us release windows for those titles, that would be huge. And I've been saying this, like, leading up to this E3, I've been saying it would just make a lot of sense for Sony to drop the bombshells of release dates that at this point, yes, for these games, getting a release date is a bombshell because that's just how excited people are for them. You know, just like we saw with Death Stranding. That was the first bombshell, man. Like getting an awesome gameplay trailer and finding out it's coming out at the end of this year, absolute bombshell. I don't care what anybody says. Huge news. Fantastic news. You know, perfect way for Sony to keep the conversation on them during the time where Microsoft and all of these other publishers are going to be having their big E3 showing. It's a great way to do that. So it would just make sense for them to continue this. But I'm going to end the video here, guys. I know I did a lot of like rambling in this video, but again, I don't want anybody to sit here and take this as, oh, this is a leak, this is a rumor, it could be true, because it's not. This is coming from somebody from Twitter that just really, if anything, even though there isn't an article written up about it, I just didn't want to take that approach because I'm very skeptical. If anything, to me, this video is more of me saying, if I had to take a guess as to whether or not Sony would actually do a state of play this month, to kind of keep the conversation surrounding PlayStation during the month of E3, I think they would. I think it's actually kind of likely they would do that. I just don't know exactly when, and I don't know exactly what they would show, obviously. But again, if I had to speculate, I think they would want to show more of their upcoming titles that they know people are very excited about, especially The Last of Us Part 2. It just makes sense. You see what I'm saying? So, like, even if somebody were to come out here and say this and claim to be a leaker or an insider, which I don't think this individual did, it just makes a lot of sense. Now, is there a chance Sony will do nothing? Of course. We don't know. We don't know what they're going to do, and doing nothing could be exactly what they plan to do. So, we're going to have to wait to see, guys. I'm going to be, you know, looking out, keeping my eyes peeled for any more information, and I'll be sure to bring it to you guys. At this point, I want you to leave your thoughts down below. Do you think Sony's actually going to do a state of play this month to keep the conversation on PlayStation, or do you think they're just going to kind of let this month go, let everybody else have their time in the spotlight, and then come back maybe later in July or August with some big information with these games? Going to be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon so you can be notified anytime I upload a new video, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.